$5 million. In real estate, that might get you a mansion. But in the world of exotic cars, it buys engineering masterpieces few people will ever see. From track-only hypercars to hand-built one-offs, here's what $5 million really gets you, and why these machines are worth every penny. The $5 million mark in the exotic car world is where things get seriously interesting. This isn't just about speed anymore, though we'll get plenty of that. This is about exclusivity, craftsmanship, and owning something that maybe 50 people on the entire planet will ever experience. These aren't just cars, they're statements, investments, and in some cases, the closest thing to a time machine you can legally drive on public roads. Let's start with what might be the most obvious choice in this price range: the Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300 Plus. At around $4.5 million, this hypercar represents the absolute bleeding edge of what's possible when money is no object. The numbers are almost comical: 1,479 horsepower from an 8.0-liter quad turbocharged W16 engine. This thing doesn't just accelerate, it warps reality around it. The Chiron Supersport holds the production car land speed record at 304.773 miles per hour. Think about that for a second. 300 miles per hour in a car. You can theoretically drive to the grocery store. The engineering required to make a vehicle stable at those speeds is mind-boggling. We're talking about active aerodynamics that adjust thousands of times per second, a suspension system that can lower the car to just 2.6 inches off the ground, and brakes that could probably stop a freight train. But here's where it gets really wild. Bugatti only made 30 of these Supersport 300 Plus models. 30 in the entire world. You're not just buying horsepower, you're buying a piece of automotive history that will never be replicated. Now, if you want to talk about pure, unadulterated racing pedigree wrapped in a street-legal package, the McLaren P1 GTR Lanzante might be your answer. At around $5 million, this isn't just a car. It's a Formula One car that somehow convinced the DMV to give it license plates. McLaren took their already insane P1 hypercar and threw out any pretense of comfort or practicality. The P1 GTR produces 986 horsepower from its hybrid powertrain, but that number doesn't tell the whole story. This car weighs just 3,531 pounds, which means it has a power-to-weight ratio that would make a fighter jet jealous. 0 to 60 miles per hour happens in just 2.4 seconds, but more importantly, this thing can pull lateral G-forces that will rearrange your internal organs. Stick around until the end to see the $5 million car that's so exclusive, the manufacturer personally interviews every potential buyer and has the right to refuse the sale even if you have the money. Speaking of exclusivity, let's talk about the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute. At approximately $4.8 million, this Swedish masterpiece represents what happens when a small team of absolute perfectionists decides to build the ultimate high-speed machine. The Jesko Absolute produces 1,600 horsepower on racing fuel. That's more power than some NASCAR engines produce. But the real party trick of the Jesko is its transmission. Koenigsegg developed something called the light speed transmission, which can change gears in virtually zero time. We're not talking milliseconds here, we're talking about gear changes so fast that they're essentially instantaneous. This allows the car to always be in the optimal gear for maximum acceleration, regardless of what the driver is doing. The aerodynamics on the Absolute are specifically tuned for maximum top speed. Koenigsegg estimates this car could theoretically reach 330 miles per hour under the right conditions. 330 miles per hour. That's faster than most small aircraft cruise at. The engineering required to make a car stable at those speeds involves computational fluid dynamics that would make NASA engineers impressed. Now, if you're the type of person who thinks modern hypercars are too civilized, too comfortable, too easy to drive, then you might want to consider the Gordon Murray T50. At around $4.5 million, this car is Murray's love letter to the golden age of Formula One racing. Murray designed some of the most successful F1 cars in history, including the McLaren MP4/4 that dominated the late 80s. The T50 weighs just 2,174 pounds. To put that in perspective, that's lighter than a Mazda Miata. But unlike a Miata, the T50 has a naturally aspirated 12-cylinder engine that revs to 12,100 RPM and produces 654 horsepower. The power-to-weight ratio is absolutely obscene. What makes this car special isn't just the numbers, it's the philosophy. Murray designed the T50 to be the ultimate analog driving experience. There's no traction control, no stability management, no driver aids whatsoever. It's just you, a manual transmission, and 654 horsepower in a package that weighs less than some motorcycles. But perhaps the most insane option in this price range isn't even a production car in the traditional sense. For around $5 million, you can buy a genuine Formula One car from recent seasons. We're talking about actual race cars that competed in the pinnacle of motorsport, driven by the best drivers in the world, engineered by teams with budgets that exceed the GDP of small countries. A recent-era F1 car produces around 1,000 horsepower from a 1.6-liter turbocharged V6 engine. But the real magic is in the aerodynamics and energy recovery systems. These cars generate so much downforce that they could theoretically drive upside down at speeds above 100 miles per hour. The energy recovery system harvests power from braking and exhaust heat, then deploys it for additional acceleration. The downside? These cars are essentially unusable outside of a racetrack with a full support crew. They need to be preheated before starting, require specialized fuel, and need complete rebuilds after relatively short periods of use. But if your goal is to own the absolute pinnacle of automotive technology, nothing comes close to a genuine F1 car. For those who prefer their exclusivity with a side of practicality, the Rolls-Royce Phantom Tempest collection might be more appealing. At around $5 million for a fully optioned example, this isn't just a car. It's a mobile palace. The Tempest collection features a headliner with over 1,000 individually placed fiber optic lights that create a constellation effect. The wood trim contains actual meteorite particles, and the leather is sourced from bulls that lived in specific regions and were raised under particular conditions to ensure the absolute highest quality. The V12 engine produces 563 horsepower, but that's almost beside the point. This car is about creating an environment so luxurious, so isolated from the outside world, that passengers feel like they're traveling in their own private universe. The suspension system can detect road imperfections before the wheels even hit them and adjust accordingly. The cabin is so well insulated that it's actually quieter inside than most people's bedrooms at night. Then there's the world of vintage racing exotica. For $5 million, you could own a genuine Porsche 917 race car from the early 70s. These cars dominated endurance racing and were so fast, so dangerous, that several racing series eventually banned them. The 917 could reach speeds of over 230 miles per hour on the long straights at Le Mans, which was absolutely terrifying given the safety standards of the era. These vintage race cars represent a time when racing was pure, raw, and incredibly dangerous. The drivers were genuine gladiators, and the cars were barely controlled missiles. Owning one isn't just about having a fast car, it's about owning a piece of motorsport history when men were men and cars were death traps. The maintenance costs on these vintage racers can be astronomical. Original parts are nearly impossible to find, and everything has to be rebuilt by specialists who understand the original engineering. At the absolute top of the exotic car food chain sits the McLaren F1. Clean examples now sell for over $5 million, making it one of the most expensive production cars ever made. The F1 was designed by Gordon Murray as the ultimate road car, with no compromises for comfort or practicality. It features a naturally aspirated BMW V12 engine producing 627 horsepower in a car weighing just 2,509 pounds. The F1 held the production car speed record for over a decade, reaching 240.1 miles per hour. But more importantly, it established the template for every hypercar that followed. The central driving position, the carbon fiber construction, the naturally aspirated high-revving engine. These elements have been copied by every subsequent supercar manufacturer. What makes $5 million cars special isn't just their performance or exclusivity. It's their ability to represent the absolute pinnacle of human engineering and craftsmanship. These machines exist at the intersection of art and science, where the laws of physics meet unlimited budgets and obsessive attention to detail. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the world of ultimate luxury, a like and a subscription would mean the world. Comment which car you like the most. And for now, click right here to watch our video on the $3 million Pagani Huayra. See you there in a second.